We think we're so independent. The truth is, we can't be big on independence without being equally big on self-deceit. We can't give God anything that he didn't give to us first. We can't please him in any way without him telling us how. With all real acts of worship then, it isn't so much that God is waiting for us to do something for him. He's waiting for us to join him so we can do something together. God made a world where he and we could do stuff together. Think of Isaiah 55:10, as the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return to it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater. He waters the earth, we sow, reap, process the grain, eat the bread. So it comes to the table as a joint activity. Even more so when it's Passover bread. They were told to eat unleavened bread, both when they celebrated the first Passover and when they subsequently ate their meals of remembrance afterwards. We might wonder why. Back in Genesis 18 and 19, the Lord's angels are presented with meals, first by Abraham and then by Lot. And both of them make bread for the occasion. We don't know anything about the bread that Sarah and Abraham put on the table, beyond that it was made with about 11 kilos of fine flour. In Lot's case, we are specifically told the bread was made without yeast. Abraham is hosting the angels in Mamre, out in the country, on his own. Lot is getting his meal together in the city of Sodom. Is there a lesson here? Probably. And it's to do with the pollution of sin, pollution that lies beneath the surface, hidden from our eyes, and it's on the lines of this lesson: don't offer it to God if you don't know where it's been. So the unleavened bread at the Passover meal represents a separation from Egypt and her gods and her influence. They have no part in preparing this meal that they were eating with their God. There is room for reflection here, I think, on the countless ways in which we are tempted to import into our worship that which has been borrowed from other gods, be it in the music we use or the practices of leadership and teaching that we follow. The church has much to learn from the world, apparently. But maybe instead we need a regular unleavening of what we are preparing and bringing to the table for our meal with our holy God. Because even if we don't know where it came from, he most certainly does. This was the feature of yeast or leaven that Jesus focused on in Matthew 13:33. The fact that once the yeast has been worked into the dough, it really is too late to think about taking it back. And there he's saying it in a really positive sense. The kingdom of heaven is out there now in society and can't be recalled and eradicated, and society can't be returned to how it was before the kingdom broke in with the arrival of Jesus. You can't return the yeast to the packet once it's been mixed in with the dough. Later on, in Matthew 16:5-12, we find him using the same feature of yeast in a warning to his disciples about the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. This time, of course, it's a negative thing. Once you've formed your spirituality around the goal of making a good impression on others, see Matthew 23 for the different ways in which they did this, everything becomes infected with that, poisoned. For the purposes of worship that pleases God, spoilt. Better to be on guard against that hypocrisy getting in there in the first place, because once in, it's terribly hard to get it out. As the Corinthian church found when it got all preening and self-important and completely failed to deal with a case of incest in the church. When our focus becomes ourselves and our goal is to have others think well of us, it is simply amazing the kinds of really obvious impurities that we will allow to pass unchecked into our lives, into our worship. And when Paul writes to them in 1 Corinthians 5:6-8, he reminds them of exactly this feature of yeast, that it works through and affects every part of the dough. Get rid of the old yeast and be what you are, he says, a new batch of dough made without yeast. Destroy the sinful nature, or let the sinful nature infect and pollute the whole church. It's a choice for us too.